So every year, one of my favorite channels out there, Foolish Baseball, well, actually in this case, Foolish Bailey, does a hitters and pitchers he likes and dislikes series for the upcoming season. So I figured why not try to put myself to the test. In this case, though, I'm going to do one for each team. So in this video, I'm going to do one hitter I like for each team. Let's get to it. And just to clarify, what I mean by a player I like doesn't necessarily mean Shohei Ohtani or Juan Soto, but more so means a player that I think could break out, bounce back, or simply just improve from last season. Before I get started though, hit the like button, make sure to leave a comment after the video, and think about subscribing down below. We're so close to 50,000 subscribers. Starting off with the Angels, and I like Nolan Schanuel. He had a decent year last year, hitting .250 with an OPS just over 700, which mainly came from his .343 on-base percentage. Now, the problem with Schanuel last year was his power, as he ranked in the bottom 10 percentile in all of his batted ball data, and only the second percentile with his bat speed. Now, he spent this past offseason working on that, along with his overall strength, and his swing does look a bit quicker this spring. He already has the elite plate discipline, so I'm going to bank on everything else following through this year. On to the Astros, and I'm a big fan of Isak Paredes here. They got him back in the Kyle Tucker trade, and with the Crawford boxes in left field at the now Daikin Park, I really like this fit. Now, his batted ball data wasn't all that great this past year, but he pulled all 19 of his home runs, and StatGas projects he would have had 7 more home runs in Houston this year. I think that's going to play very well in 2025. On to the Sacramento A's, and I got Jacob Wilson. He was drafted 6th overall in the 2023 draft, and I'm telling you, this guy is going to be a hitting machine. He's not going to give you a lot of power, but he's going to give you a ton of contact. He struck out under 10% of the time this past year, and he ranked 11th overall in contact percentage among hitters with at least 100 plate appearances. Also, he added 15 pounds this offseason, so I think that added strength is really going to help him out with the batted ball data. For the Blue Jays, I have Bo Bichette. 2024 was an awful year for Bichette, but I think he bounces back this year. He had multiple injuries this past season, which didn't help him out at all, and when he did play, he still kept the swing and miss and the strikeouts down, and now that he's healthy, along with going into a walk year on his contract, which should give him a little extra motivation, I'm expecting a good 2025 season. On to the Braves, and I'm going to go with Austin Riley. Now, it feels weird going with Riley here because he wasn't exactly bad. In fact, he was pretty solid for the most part overall, but I would say he had a down year compared to his usual standards. He had a bad start to the season, along with an oblique injury, and after he got things figured out, he ended up breaking his hand towards the end of the year. I think another big part of this was Riley and the Braves in general were getting a lot more fastballs in the early part of the year, and it took him a little bit to adjust to that, but overall, his batted ball data was still very strong. His plate discipline was right on par with what it's been over the last couple of years. I think a fully healthy season, a better start to the year, and he'll have a better season overall. For the Brewers, I see a breakout year from Sal Frelick. He got a good amount of playing time this past year, but he only hit .259 with a .655 OPS, but he showed some pretty solid plate discipline. He ranked at least in the 90th percentile with his strikeout and his whiff percentage. His chase rate was also pretty solid, but he also ranked 12th in contact percentage among hitters with at least 100 plate appearances. He also added on a lot of muscle this past offseason, 20 pounds overall. I think that's going to help him out with the batted ball data. I think he's going to have a very good year. For the Cardinals, I'm going to go with Jordan Walker. Now, I know he's been a breakout candidate for a while now, and he hasn't lived up to that, but I think this is going to be the year. He didn't put up great numbers last year, but he did have a strong finish, posting a 115 WRC plus and a 494 on the slugging over the final month. He also spent this past offseason working with the Cardinals hitting coach Brant Brown, so I'm going to bank on 2025 finally being the breakout year for Jordan Walker. On to the Cubs, and I'm going to go with Matt Shaw. I'm going to be honest here. I'm a bit biased here because I'm a big Matt Shaw fan, but I do think he's going to have a solid rookie year. He posted great numbers in the minor leagues, including a 900 OPS, over 600 minor league ABs, while posting a very good swinging strike percentage, under 10% in the minor leagues last year. For the Diamondbacks, I'm going to go with Gabriel Moreno. Now, Moreno suffered multiple injuries this past year that limited him to 97 games, but he still showed very good plate discipline this past year. As you can see, he ranked in at least the 84th percentile in all of the plate discipline stats. He ranked very well in chase percentage, whiff percentage, strikeout percentage, walk percentage. Now that he's going to have a full healthy season, I expect all of the other metrics to come back up here. I think he's going to have a good year. On to the Dodgers, and I'll go with the newly signed Michael Conforto. Now, last year with the Giants, Conforto went a bit under the radar, but he had pretty solid metrics overall, including his expected numbers. His batted ball data was pretty good. Pair that with the fact that his best numbers came on the road, along with playing half a season at the picture-friendly Oracle Park in San Francisco, as well as a pretty solid 24.5% chase rate. I think he's going to do pretty well with the Dodgers, and the Dodgers do have a good history of getting more out of their players. Speaking of the Giants, I got to go with Jung-Hoo Lee here. He came over from the KBO last year, but his season was cut short due to a shoulder injury. But when he played, he did post a very good whiff and strikeout percentage, and he ranked third in contact percentage, only behind Stephen Kwan and Luis Ariz. That's some pretty good company right there. Even though he lacks power, I think that suits him well, especially at a more spacious Oracle Park. For the Guardians, I'll go with Will Brennan. Now, he's really just a platoon bat against righties, but he did very well in that department, hitting .278 with a 109 WRC+, but he also ranked very well in strikeout percentage this past year. He ranked in the 94th percentile, along with the 84th percentile in whiff percentage. On top of that, this guy was scorching hot at the end of last season, hitting .370 with a 141 WRC+, to help the Guardians make that run all the way to the American League Championship Series. He also looks to be in great shape this spring. With all that in mind, I think he's going to have a solid year. On to the Mariners, and I'll go with J.P. Crawford. Now, he dealt with oblique and hand injuries this past year, so he never really got himself going, but he still ranked 6th overall in outside swing percentage among hitters with 450 plate appearances, showed here by the 99th percentile in chase percentage. He also ranked very well when it came to walk percentage, the 90th percentile, and the 75th percentile in whiff percentage. I think a healthier season from J.P. Crawford is going to help get his batted ball metrics back up, and I think we'll get back to the old J.P. Crawford. For the Marlins, I'll go with Xavier Edwards. Now, this is kind of an easy one because he had a strong showing last year, but there's not much else going for the Marlins right now. You got guys like Kyle Stowers and Connor Norby, who could be interesting because they both had good batted ball metrics, but they both had pretty poor plate discipline overall. So, to me, I think Xavier Edwards is a good bet for this year, and I think he could be even better than this past year. He was very solid this past year. He hit .328 with an .820 OPS, and the plate discipline was very good with him. He ranked very well in chase percentage, whiff percentage, strikeout percentage, walk percentage. If he can just up the batted ball metrics a little bit, my goodness, I mean, I think his bat could be even better than what it was this past year. And this guy is extremely fast. He stole 31 bases this year in 70 games. For the Mets, I got Starling Marte, and so far, I would say he's been a pretty underwhelming signing for the Mets because he's had a lot of injuries, but this past year, I think there were some pretty good signs. He had some pretty solid expected numbers. As you can see here, he ranked in the 95th percentile in expected batting average, and some of the batted ball metrics did look pretty good. The average exit velo ranked in the 62nd percentile, had a pretty good hard hit percentage as well. If he can stay healthy, I think he could be an under-the-radar guy for the Mets this year. On to the Nationals, and I gotta go with James Wood. The power upside with this guy is off the charts. The dude is just massive at 6'7". His exit velo and his hard hit percentage ranked near the top last year. Now, he did have some issues with the swing and miss and the strikeouts, but he ranked near the top with both his chase percentage and his walk percentage. I think this guy is going to mash. For the Orioles, I'm going to go with Ryan Mountcastle. Now, the thing with Mountcastle is his batted ball profile looks like one of a power hitter, but he only hit 13 home runs last year. However, the Orioles moved their left field fence in a bit more this past offseason, and I think that's going to help him out. On to the Padres, and I got Tirso Ornelas. Who the heck is Tirso Ornelas, you might ask? Well, as of right now, he's the number 11 prospect in the Padres farm system, and he's made a ton of improvements over the last year. Now, he did walk about 3% less this past year, but he did get his strikeouts down about 3% less as well. But most importantly, he started hitting for a bit more power this past year, going from 15 home runs in 2023 to 23 in 2024. Now, as of right now, the Padres are going with Jason Hayward and Connor Joe out in left field, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Ornelas get a chance this year, who is also hitting pretty well this spring. For the Phillies, I got Max Kepler. Now, last year with the Twins, he had a lot of injuries, but this past offseason, the Phillies still decided to give him a one-year, $10 million deal, and I think that's because he's always had pretty solid underlying numbers. Now, this past year, as you can see, there's a lot of blues, but back in 2023, he had very good metrics. The expected numbers all ranked well, the batted ball profile ranked well, the plate discipline ranked well for the most part, and because of the injuries, I think that took a toll, and that affected him overall, but he's going to be fully healthy this coming year, and I think his lefty bat is a very good fit at Citizens Bank Park. For the Pirates, I'll go with Brian Hayes. Now, everyone was thinking Hayes was going to have a monster breakout season last year, but then he had a bad back all year, and that didn't really help his batted ball metrics. But his whiff and strikeout percentage still ranked pretty well this past year, and he still squared up the ball at a pretty solid rate. He also made some adjustments with his swing this past year, and despite a little bit of tightness on his left side, he has looked a lot better this spring. On to the Rangers, and I got Wyatt Langford. He was my Rookie of the Year pick last year, but unfortunately, that didn't really work out because of a slow first half, but he looked amazing down the stretch. He posted a 180 WRC plus and a 996 OPS with 8 home runs in September. My goodness, overall, his expected numbers were pretty solid for the most part. His batted ball metrics looked pretty good, and his chase rate ranked in the 86th percentile. I'm expecting a big step forward this year from Langford. For the Rays, I got a guy that's turning a lot of heads this spring, Chandler Simpson. If you haven't heard of this guy, well, buckle your buns because he's going to be very good. The dude is a freak athlete. He has an 80 grade on his speed. He stole 104 bases last year. Yeah, you heard that correctly. 104. That is a lot of stolen bases. He also has a 70 hit tool. He makes a ton of contact. He hits to all fields. He can hit anywhere, whether or not he's getting pitched inside, he's getting pitched away. In fact, he had a 93% contact rate last year. That's just a smidge lower than Luis Arraez's contact rate this past year. Can you imagine Luis Arraez stealing anywhere from 50 to 100 bases? That's what we're talking about here. It's absolutely insane. Now, you're not going to get a lot of power with Chandler Simpson. In fact, you're pretty much going to get no power. He only has 1 home run in pro ball. I mean, yes, you heard that correctly too. 1 home run. But this guy's a freak. I think he's going to do very well. You know, when you partner a great hit tool with the speed, I think that's going to translate very well to the major league level. On to my Red Sox, and I'll go with Trevor Story. Injuries have been the issue with Story since signing with the Red Sox, but I see a healthy season this year. Now, with the newly signed Alex Bregman most likely getting a bulk of the playing time at third base this year, this should take some of the pressure off of Story at shortstop, which, in my opinion, would have come in handy last year before he made that all-out diving play that made his shoulder explode. And sure, the batted ball metrics haven't looked all that great in the last couple of years, mainly due to injuries, but if he can get back to that 80th percentile barrel rate from 2022, that should help with his pull swing at Fenway Park. But most of all, it's the defense that makes him valuable. He ranks 11th overall in outs above average among all shortstops over the last 2 seasons, despite playing about 2,000 less innings than the leader since then, Dansby Swanson. For the Reds, I got Gavin Lux. They just acquired him this past offseason in a trade, and I like the fit here. He came back from a knee injury this past season, and after a slow first half, he picked it up in the second half with the Dodgers, hitting .304 with an .899 OPS and a 152 WRC+. Now, most of that production came against righties, but with a hitter-friendly park at Great American Park, I could see him having a lot of success there. On to the Rockies, and I got Nolan Jones. He had a solid year a couple of years ago, posting a 2020 season, and he finished 4th overall in Rookie of the Year voting, but this past year, he had problems with the back and the knee. The batted ball profile took a bit of a hit, but he still showed some pretty solid plate discipline. The chase percentage and the walk percentage still look pretty strong. I think he's going to get back to some good numbers here in 2025. On to the Royals, and I like their newest addition, Jonathan India. Now, he wasn't bad by any means last year with the Reds. He had a 749 OPS and a 108 WRC+, but I actually like the fit with India at Kauffman. That might sound a little confusing because Kauffman is more of a pitcher-friendly park compared to Great American Ballpark, which is more of a hitter-friendly park. But India, he's more of a gaps kind of a guy, not a big power guy, but I think that's going to translate well to Kauffman with that spacious outfield that they have. I think he's going to hit a lot more doubles there, and actually, in his career, he's hit very well at Kauffman, has over a 1,300 OPS there. On to the Tigers, and I got Colt Keith. Now, he had an up-and-down rookie season last year, but he posted a decent whiff and strikeout percentage, and he ranked in the 80th percentile in expected batting average, and he was hitting the ball harder in the second half while increasing his line drive percentage by 5%. For the Twins, I got Brooks Lee. He was the 8th overall pick back in 2022, and he was solid in the minor leagues before a call-up last year. Now, he ended up not posting great numbers overall, but he dealt with back and shoulder issues, and even with that, his strikeout and his whiff percentage still ranked pretty well, and he was squaring up the ball okay, so I think he's going to end up being a lot better this coming year with better health. health. For the White Sox, I'm going to go a bit outside the box here and go with former Red Sox prospect Chase Meidroth. Now, I know a lot of people are leaning towards Miguel Vargas possibly breaking out, but I'm telling you, look out for Chase Meidroth. He went to the White Sox in the Garrett Crochet trade, and while he wasn't the centerpiece of the deal, I think he's going to end up being very good for the White Sox. In each of his first 3 seasons in the minor leagues, he's posted over a 400 on-base percentage. Now, there's not going to be a lot of power with him. He'll give a little bit of pop here and there, but the guy gets on base, he makes a lot of contact, and he struck out under 13% last year. Those types of profiles tend to translate very well to the major league level. And with the White Sox not really playing for anything this year, I think he ends up getting a shot at some point, and I think he's going to do very well. And last but not least, I got Jason Dominguez for the Yankees. Now, I know a lot of focus has been on his poor defense this spring, but his bat is definitely going to cause a lot of problems. Now, he did miss a lot of time last year after getting elbow surgery, but he hit really well in the minor leagues on his way back to the major leagues. And even though he didn't play all that much for the Yankees down the stretch, he still showed some good things here. A lot of barrels, good hard hit percentage. The bat speed looked good. The walk percentage was high, had over a 16% walk rate. I think with a normal offseason, a normal spring, I think we're finally going to see what the Martian can do in 2025. But everyone, those are my picks for the players that I like for each team this year. Tell me some players that you like for this coming year, whether or not they're bounce back candidates, whether they're underrated guys, or even guys that were good last year. Tell me those guys that you like for this coming year. But everyone, that's all I got for this video. If you can on the way out, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. We're so close to 50,000 subscribers. I can smell it. But everyone, that's all I got for right now. I'll talk to you next time.